Chapter 3. A month later, on Rosebriar Road in Atlanta, an alarm clock knifed into the darkness of 2 o'clock in the morning. Bill Meacham was already awake, and his hand silenced the alarm almost as soon as it began. His body was alive, vibrant, singing like an electric wire as he dressed in preparation for the trip to Ravenel. He cut on a lamp at a bedside table and shook his wife gently. He dressed in fatigue pants, a military-issue t-shirt, and combat boots. High on his left arm, a tattoo of a red cobra, fanged, coiled, and ready to strike, stood in stark relief to his pale, freckled skin. His hair was cut short in a military burr. His neck was thick, powerful, and cruelly muscled. His arms were long, athletic to the point of being simian, threaded with veins and covered with reddish hair. Quickly, he did 50 push-ups and 20 sit-ups. Then he jumped up from the floor and began to run in place. He pulled a rosary from the pocket of his fatigues and began to say the first decade of the rosary. The drumming of his feet on the floor echoed throughout the darkened house. Lillian put a pillow over her head and tried to cut out the noise and light, tried to resume sleeping, although she knew it was hopeless. Timing himself precisely, Bull quit running after he had said 3 decades. He liked the idea of caring for his body. At the same time, he cared for his soul. Come on, Lillian, up and at 'em. No gold bricking this morning. We've got 250 miles of hard traveling to get done. The movers are going to meet us at the new house at 0900. Say one more rosary, darling, then I'll be half alive. Get up, trooper. I'll get the kids. I want to be on the road in 15 minutes. He was sweating lightly as he moved to the girls' room. To wake Marianne and Karen, he flicked on the light switches and watched as they grabbed their eyes. It was the way DIs awoke recruits when he was at officer candidate school, and it remained to him the most efficient way to arouse soldiers from their sacks. Let's move at Split Tails. South Carolina is 5 hours away. Then he crossed the hall to the room where Ben and Matthew slept. He cut on the lights and walked quickly to Ben's bed. Before Ben's eyes could adjust to the light, Bull grabbed one of his legs and pulled him out of bed. Then he reached across and grabbed Matthew's leg and pulled him on top of Ben. Both brothers lashed out with their arms and legs, but Bull's weight had both of them pinned in ludicrous, humiliating positions. You Marines would never make it during a surprise attack. Come on, Dad, get off us, Ben begged. Come on, Dad, get off us, Bull imitated in a high-pitched whine. As he let the boys up, he ordered, be dressed and into the car in 5 minutes. We're breaking camp. The Japs are on the move again. Bull went into the kitchen, listening for the sounds of the house springing to life. He heard his wife cough, water run in the girls' bathroom, a toilet flush, and Matthew yell something at Ben. He went into the kitchen of his mother-in-law's house, plugged in a pot of coffee, and studied a road map of Georgia. Silently, he read off the names of some Georgia towns: Moultrie, Ocilla, Dahlonega, Jessup, Waycross. The whole state depressed him. The blue lines representing highways that intersected towns whose names and destinies were mysteries to him. Southern towns choked with clay and grits. Black swamp towns who, like injured horses, ought to be shot and buried. South Carolina was no better, he thought, but at least it wasn't Georgia. Alice Soule, 63 years old, struggled into the kitchen where her son-in-law sat. She was wearing a blue house robe, sprinkled with roses and chrysanthemums. Her face had been hastily made up into a mask of almost clownish flamboyance. Bull grinned when he saw her and said, "Which whorehouse sold you that bathrobe, Alice?" "Same one your mother worked for just before you were born." The woman growled back at him. "Now don't go messing with me at 2 a.m, Bull. I'm in no mood. Why in the hell can't you drive during normal hours?" "Amen," her daughter called from the bedroom. "You make good time traveling at night," came the reply. "The kids can sleep, no cars on the road. It's cooler, and you don't waste a day getting there." Alice sighed, unconvinced. It must be the Yankee in you. Soon, Lillian was herding her children out of their bedrooms and toward the front door. The instincts of the military wife were beginning to assert themselves. The old efficiency of stealing away from temporary homes and entering the bloodstream of highways heading to new quarters. She led them out the front door and down the steep driveway and into the family station wagon. The car was already packed. A luggage carrier strapped to the roof was piled high with trunks, suitcases, and whatever cargo Bull deemed necessary for the first few hours in their new house. Ben and Meacham had flattened the back seats of the station wagon and inserted a double mattress so the children could sleep during the night journey through Georgia. In the kitchen, waiting for his wife to give the ready sign, Bull poured himself a cup of coffee, drank it black, and felt the heat surge into his belly and flood through his body. The coffee burned into him, a dark transfusion that awakened him to his own desire to leave this house and set his eyes on long curves and highway signs. "Mama, you're crying," Lillian said as her mother walked up to the car. "I'm gonna miss you, baby," Alice said, embracing her daughter. "When you're my age, you realize you have a finite number of goodbyes to say in your life." "Child," Lillian answered, "you are the healthiest human being on this earth. Don't you go talking nonsense." "It is nonsense, but I'll cry if I gosh darn feel like crying." "That's the spirit. Let me kiss my grandchildren." She leaned through the window. "Goodbye, Mama," Ben said to his grandmother as she kissed him on the mouth. "I love you." "I love you too, Benji," she said, crying softly. "You listen to your daddy, Ben. Just do what he says. You won't get into trouble. All you children do that. You hear, Mama." "Sure, Mama," Ben said. "If we don't listen to him, Dad has a good way of getting your attention. He knocks out a few of your teeth." "Hush, boy. You talk like a fool," she snapped. "It's a child's job to adapt to a parent. You have a strict father, and you have to adapt quickly. Or else you're not going to have a tooth left in your head," Marianne whispered to her brother. The act of moving was in progress now, set in motion by an alarm clock, and the family that had moved 4 times in 4 years, traveling in summer nights past bleached-out, sun-dried towns, moving along southern highways through the shrill, eternal symphonies of southern insects, humming old tunes and sleeping as the car rolled through the vast wilderness and untransmissible nights. This family was tied to the image of the automobile. It was the signet of their private mythology. So often had they moved, shuffled on a chessboard by colonels in the Pentagon, that it had become ritual. They moved through it all mindlessly, relying on spirit and experience, and with the knowledge that it was all the same, that the air bases were interchangeable, that mobility was the only necessary ingredient in the composition of a military family. The Meachams were middle-class migrants, and all of them were part of a profession whose most severe punishment was rootlessness, and whose sweetest gift was a freedom granted by highways and a vision of America where nothing was permanent and everything possible. Colonel Meacham appeared on the front porch. He wore his flight jacket and gazed down the hill at the station wagon where his children jockeyed for position on the back seat. He felt good. Energy burned off him like a light. On the road, he was alive, vibrant, moving. It didn't afford the freedom of a jet plane, flying through a clear sky, but a highway offered something almost as profound, an entry into the secret regions of the earth, where towns with foreign, unrecallable names were violated once, then forgotten for all time. Yes, he felt good. Everything was ready. The operation was proceeding flawlessly. In a loud voice that swept through the sleeping neighborhood, he called to his family, "Stand by for a fighter pilot." Then he strode to the car, his arms swinging like an untroubled monarch. As the pilot neared them, Lillian turned to the children in the back seat for last-minute instructions. "Now remember what I told you. Don't do anything to upset your father. He's easily upset on trips," she said in a soft voice. "I've already talked to them, Lillian," Mama said. "They'll be good." Colonel Meacham entered the car. He arranged the things on the dashboard very carefully. On his far left, he stacked 3 road maps. Beside the maps was a box of Tampa Nugget cigars, blunt. On top of the cigars was a pair of aviator sunglasses. Then, putting his hand into the pocket of his flight jacket, he pulled out a .22 pistol from it and laid the gun gingerly beside the cigar box. The appearance of the weapon caused a stir among his children behind him. It was the first time he had ever openly carried a weapon on a trip. The barrel of the pistol pointed at the squinting plastic statue of Jesus that was centered on the dashboard. "Why are you carrying a gun, honey?" Lillian asked her husband. "Is it loaded and ready to kill?" Matt asked breathlessly from the back. "It's not loaded, sports fans," the colonel answered, "but it's there. You can never tell what you might meet on the road these days." "That's right, Popsy," Marianne called out. "They've been having quite a lot of trouble with stray dinosaurs and stuff in Georgia lately." "Don't be flip with your father, young lady," her mother cautioned. "This pistol," Colonel Meacham said authoritatively, as if he were lecturing recruits, "is to be used only in case of emergencies. Then he glanced back at Marianne through the rearview mirror, smiled, and continued in a magisterial voice, such as dinosaurs, Indian attacks, Tartars sweeping out of the hills, surprise raids by the Japanese Air Force, but most of all because we are in the deep south, and the times being what they are, you never know when I might have to give some wild expletive a new asshole. A troubled silence invaded the back seat. The eyes of the children turned to Lillian, awaiting a swift response. Lillian felt the silence and knew that the children were waiting for her to speak. She did not want to anger her husband, but she had no other options. Finally, she said, "You know I don't allow that word to be used in this family. Bull. Only poor white trash use that word, so please don't use that word around our children." "We're supposed to call them Negroes, Daddy," Karen said, highly offended by her father's vulgarity. "Gee, thanks a lot, Muffin. Negroes, you say," Bull teased. "Yeah, and he said that other word too because I heard it with my own 2 ears," Matt said. "It's not sophisticated to use those words," Karen said. "Oh, gosh darn," Bull responded, starting up the engine of the car. "If it isn't sophisticated, then I can't ever use them words again. Lordy me. To think old Bull Meacham let an unsophisticated word pass his lips. Why, it shames me even to think of it." Then his voice lowered an octave and he spoke sharply to his wife. "What kind of happy horse crap have you been feeding Karen since I've been gone?" "For your information, I've been teaching Karen the art of being a lady. And I've taught your sons how to be gentlemen, training they normally never receive at home." "Oh, gentlemen, excuse-moi," he said sarcastically. "There ain't nothing in this world that makes me puke faster than a southern gentleman." "I'll remind you, Bull, that you are an officer and a gentleman. And I'll remind you that I am not a pansy southern gentleman." "True, you're not. There's not a place on earth you could qualify as a gentleman." Ben and Marianne suppressed giggles into the pillows they were lying on, not daring to let their father hear them. Bull turned to his wife slowly, the engine running, and said, "You know, Lillian, I think after 18 years of marriage, you're starting to develop a sense of humor. Now quit the yapping and let's get down the road. I want to make some good time." "Give me a kiss. Goodbye, fighter pilot," Mama said, an almost forgotten shade standing by the side of the car. She leaned in and kissed her son-in-law on the lips. "Be good to the children on this trip, Bull, you hear me? They've been looking to your coming home. Don't spoil it. I mean it, too. This is your love girl speaking." "Just so long as they do exactly what I say. They know that as well as you do." "They're just kids, Bull. They're Marine kids, Alice, and that's what makes them different." "Mother," Lillian said, her eyes shining, "thanks for everything. The year was wonderful." "For me especially," Alice said, reaching across Bull and grasping her daughter's hand. Alice looked very old under the streetlight. She was not good at farewells, especially when she was tired and her defenses down on the far side of 2 o'clock in the morning. "All right, Alice," Bull growled impatiently. "We're all getting kind of weepy, and you know there's nothing I hate worse than boo-hooing." You come see us, you hear, Mother," Lillian called. "Yeah, you hear?" Bull said, mocking his wife's southern accent. "Is that dumb dog in the car?" "He's not dumb, Dad," Matt answered, offended, petting the sleeping head of a black mongrel dog in the back seat. All right, let's quit the yapping," Bull said, picking up an imaginary microphone by his dashboard. "Control tower. Run me a check on the weather. Roger. Stand by for fighter pilot. Over and out." "Bye, Mama," the children yelled. The blue station wagon pulled away from the curb like a ship easing into the half-black waters a stone's throw from the lights of harbors. Soon the rhythm of shifted gears and the suppressed hum of an engine, tuned for a long journey, brought the car down Briar Cliff Road to Ponce de Leon. At the light, Bull Meacham announced that it was time to sing. "What should we sing first?" Marianne asked. "What we always sing first, sports fans," Bull answered. "Everybody ready?" "Yeah," his children cried. "Yeah?" the father asked. "Yes, sir," they answered correctly. "That's better. A 1, and a 2, and a 3. Then together the family sang. The old words of the song burned into their collective memory. Images of other journeys flashed before them as they passed from light to darkness to light, following the street lamps of Ponce de Leon into Decatur. It was the holy hymn taken from the bone and sinew of the family's life together, the anthem of both their discontent and strange, belabored love for their way of life. With the singing of this song, the trip began. A tradition was paid its due homage, the rites of Odyssey fulfilled. A lone car passed the Meacham station wagon, and the stranger, passing other strangers for the first and last time on earth, heard the words coming toward him, and, leaving him quickly, unable to catch the tune. He caught only the word battles. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we will fight our country's battles on land, on air, on sea. First to fight for freedom. First to fight for right and freedom, and to keep our honor clean, we are proud to claim the title of United States Marines. It was the first song on all journeys the family took together. Each of the children had heard it first in the arms of their father. Its rhythms had come to them through their mother's milk. The song filled each child with a bewitched, unnameable feeling, the same feeling that drove men into battle. The Marine Corps hymn was the family song, the song of a warrior's family, the song of war, the Meacham song. Families without songs are unhappy families, Lillian Meacham would say. But the song was theirs. They were traveling now, singing the lead song, driving deep into an American night toward a base where the great silver planes rested, waiting for their pilots. All during the summer, all across America, the highways filled up with the migrating families of the American military. They made crisp, mesmerized treks from base to base where the men perfected the martial arts and where families settled into counterfeit security for a year or two. Movement, travel, impermanence, and passing in the night were laws of the tribe. If the birds of the north are born with a migratory instinct fused into the albumin of eggs, then the military families of America develop the same instinct out of necessity. They pack, move, unpack, burrow in, and nervously await their next orders. When summers come, a moving fever hits many of them, even when the orders command that they stay where they are. Orders usually came during the spring, filtered down from the Pentagon, the long, spacious halls where uneyed, five-sided men fingered the destinies of millions of men and their families, who set in motion the marathon car trip that took an Army family of 8 from the Presidio of San Francisco across the continent, that sent a bachelor from Quantico 30 miles up the road to Arlington, and 4 naval families living side by side in Newport News to 4 different directions on the compass, that left an Air Force family of 3 in the same house on the same base for 11 years. Orders came to some men yearly, to others rarely, but when they came, their obdurate, elliptical prose offered no choices. Orders simply informed men where they were to transport their families, the amount of time allowed for them to do it, and a description of their new assignment. Orders were a spare and skeletal literature. Now it's time for the old dad to do a solo number, Bull announced. Oh no, not already, Lillian groaned. Stick your head out the window when you sing this, Dad, so the windshields don't crack, Ben said. Did your voice improve overseas, Dad? Marianne asked, or does it still sound like an animal died in your throat? You got the worst voice I ever heard in my life, Matt said. I like the way you sing, Daddy. Don't listen, Karen said defensively. That's my girl, Karen. Defend your poor old father. Brown noser, Marianne hissed at Karen. But her father had already begun singing the second traditional song of the trip. When they cut down the old pine tree, and they hauled it away to the mill to make a coffin of pine for that sweetheart of mine when they cut down the old pine tree. The dog, Okra, began to bark fiercely at Colonel Meacham, but Bull continued his crooning. Oh, she's not alone in her grave tonight. Alone, alone she'll always be. When they cut down the pine for that sweetheart of mine, when they cut down the old pine tree. I can't believe it, Mrs. Meacham said. The worst voice in the world got worse in a year. I could bring tears to the eyes of millions with that recording, Bull retorted, his feelings ruffled somewhat. Even Okra thought you stunk, Dad, Matt said. Who cares what that worthless mutt thinks? I'd be doing the whole family a favor if I got the car up to 90 and threw Okra out the window. Yeah, Matt continued. All Okra just hates your guts. I never seen Okra hate anybody except you. That dog can't do one trick, Bull observed, lighting a cigar in the front seat. Okra has too much pride to do tricks for mere human beings, Marianne stated officiously. His mind is on spiritual matters. Okra has one problem, sports fans. The dog is stone dumb. Lillian turned her head toward her husband and said, "He reminds me of a lot of Marines I've met." "Touché," Marianne cried. "Okay, enough yapping. Let's sing the next song. What will be the next one?" "You're going too fast, Bull. Slow down, please," Lillian cautioned. "We gotta make time. What's the next song?" "You're going too fast. You're going over 70. Christ, Lillian, I go 500 knots in a jet practically every day of my life, and you get nervous when I go 70. This isn't a jet, Bull. What's the next song, sports fans?" "Let's sing Dixie," Karen trilled. "Yes," the rest of the family agreed, except Bull. "No," he said, "that's a loser song." "Nothing depresses me more than a loser song. Let's sing something else." "No, Dixie," the others insisted. "Okay, you sing Dixie and I'll sing the Battle Hymn of the Republic. I'll sing a winner song and you sing a loser song." So they sang rival songs at the same time. Soon it was evident to Bull that he couldn't match the firepower of his family's combined voices, so he quit singing and concentrated sullenly on his driving and his cigar. "What a horseshit song," Bull mumbled when they were finished singing. "Watch your language, Bull. Sing Dixie if you want, but we all is heading out of Georgia, the armpit of Dixie. Of course, we all is only going to South Carolina, the sphincter of America." Marianne yelled from the back of the car, "You know what Chicago is, Popsy? It's the hemorrhoid of the planet Earth." The rest of the family applauded. Mrs. Meacham said, "Good girl, Marianne. Defend the South." "What's there to defend? The South ain't produced nothing to defend except grits, Georgia ice cream, or screwed up cream of wheat." "It produced every single one of your children," Lillian reminded him, "and your wife." "Only because the Marine Corps puts its bases in these gosh darn southern swamps." "With the taking of the Lord's name in vain, I suggest we now say a rosary for a safe trip," Lillian announced. "Good idea. Then maybe everybody will quit yapping." Lillian opened the glove compartment and fumbled for her rosary beads. "I know they're here somewhere," she declared. "They're those precious ivory beads your father bought me in Rome, Italy, blessed by Pope John the 23rd. "You haven't lost them already, for gosh sakes," her husband grumbled. "Of course not," she replied. "Certain things in automobiles never work longer than a month. Clocks, for one. The lights of glove compartments, for another. Here they are. Children, did you see this rosary? I don't believe I showed any of you. It is a treasure. Each bead is individually carved." "Was it really blessed by the Pope, Daddy?" Karen asked. "Yeah, I think the old pontiff blessed his boxcars full of rosaries for the tourists." Lillian rebuked him angrily. "Bull, what a sacrilegious thing to say." "What do you mean?" "Everyone's got a gimmick. Even popes. I'm sure it's for a worthy cause, like sending Maryknolls to Tanganyika to convert spear truckers. But it's still a gimmick. I pressed all the rosaries before I picked that one out for ya. I was going to get one blessed by the Pope and with a sliver of the real cross inside it, but I could have bought the Pieta for less money." "How did they know it was a real cross, Dad?" Ben asked. "Darn if I know, son. I think Jesus would have had to have been strung up 10,000 times to supply enough wood for that rosary racket." "I think we've had enough," Mrs. Meacham announced. "Let's say the rosary for the intention of a safe journey and the salvation of your father's endangered soul," she said to her children behind her. Colonel Meacham laughed. "I'll buy that," he said. "Your poor old dad needs all the prayers he can get, sports fans. Let's also pray for the conversion of Russia," Mrs. Meacham added. "That's just small potatoes, Mama. Let's pray for something big." Marianne deadpanned. "Don't be a snip, young lady," her mother shot back. "Yeah, Marianne, or your father's going to take you dancing down at Knuckle Junction." "That won't be necessary, Bull. I can handle the children without your help, thank you." "I'm just trying to be supportive, dear," the colonel said. His wife did not answer. Instead, she began a slow recitation of the Apostles' Creed to begin the rosary. "I believe in God the Father Almighty, creator of heaven and earth." In the back seat, brimming with hidden intentions, Ben drifted like a cloud into secret prayer, leaning back on his pillow and silently turning his thoughts to God. When he returned to the rosary, Lillian was speaking the first part of the angel's greeting to Mary. Her enunciation was flawless, as she spoke with such reverent clarity that it seemed like she was speaking the words for the first time. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. The whole family bowed their heads at the spoken name of the Lord, but their response was given in breathless haste. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and in the hour of our death. Amen. The words were packed together in an unintelligible lathered herd. As Lillian's fingers circumnavigated the beads, Ben's mind wandered, and the prayers became thoughtless, untongued words whose meaning was bled out of them by repetition. Marianne kicked him with her bare foot and shot him the finger, making sure that the sign was too low to be intercepted by her father's omniscient eyes scanning the rearview mirror. The upraised finger almost caused Ben to laugh aloud, but sterner laws of self-preservation prevailed. Ben did remember the scurrilous version of the Hail Mary Marianne had written the year before that Lillian had overheard. Hail, Benny, full of shit, a turd is on thee. Blessed art thou among farters, and smellies the corpse in the womb, Jesus. Lillian had not been amused, and she restricted Marianne to the house for 2 weeks. Since Marianne never went anywhere, the punishment did not seem to compensate for the heinousness of the crime. Marianne enjoyed shocking Ben about religious matters. Several days before Colonel Meacham returned, Marianne claimed to have read that the Vatican was reconsidering its position on Mary's virginity. When Ben fell into the trap, Marianne explained with the casualness of a disinterested theologian that St. Joseph had appeared to a shepherd near Padua and claimed that he had gotten it from the Virgin Mary at least twice before Christ was born. Because of these obscene forays into the realm of the supernatural, Ben was positive that his sister was not a favorite in the stern eyes of the Lord. He looked at her across the car, strangely saddened by the deep beauty of her smile. Glancing forward, he shot the finger back to her and smiled. The car moved deeper into the Georgia countryside, prayer breaking out of the windows and wavering harmonics spilling into the ditches and moccasin-strung creeks of the pine counties outside of Atlanta. A truck pulled suddenly behind the station wagon, filling the car with light. St. Christopher, muscled like a weightlifter and crossing a stream of bronze, winked in the sudden light, giving fierce definition to an outside staff and a Gerber baby Christ. Colonel Meacham disliked the intrusion of other vehicles in his post-midnight dashes when he was moving his family to a new home. In the rearview mirror, Ben saw his father's eyes cast a glance of primal defiance at the lights that challenged their aloneness in this desolate stretch of road, and at the very instant he heard his mother end a decade of the Rosary and begin the first words of the Lord's Prayer, Ben felt the car respond as his father's foot pressed the accelerator. Lying on the mattress, he felt as though he were part of the car's engine, that his father was stepping on some vital organ inside of him, that he was the cause of the sudden leap forward as the wind hissed through the back seat, knocking some of the clothes and uniforms from the hangers. The truck fell behind them, the lights grew smaller, then disappeared forever in the middle of the third decade of the Rosary. Night returned to the car, and the foot relented gradually, then relaxed against the accelerator. The car sang with its solitude. Christopher and his enduring spine crossed the stream visibly again. The wordless words of the Rosary continued like the heartbeats of birds. Finally, 70 miles outside the city, an hour and 15 minutes into the heart of the journey, the Rosary ended, and Colonel Meacham asked rhetorically and unspecifically, "Who's on duty first?" No voices answered him. Eyes strained almost audibly in the back seat as the brothers and sisters questioned each other wordlessly. Finally, Lillian spoke. "You taught them never to volunteer for anything. Why don't you help your poor old husband stay away, honey?" "You taught me never to volunteer for anything, too. Besides, I'll perish if I don't get a little sleep. Tomorrow's a long day with the movers coming and everything." "Ben," Bull cried out to his son in the darkness behind him, "Ben, don't pretend you're asleep already." "I was asleep." "Get up here right behind me. You got guard duty first." "Yes, sir," Ben said, moving lightly over Matthew and pushing Okra to the back of the car. He rested his arms on the front seat and leaned forward so he could whisper to his father without disturbing the sleep of the others. We'll have a little man-to-man talk while the leathernecks get some sack time. Sure, Dad, Ben said hesitantly. What do you want to talk about? Let me ask you a question first, Sentry. What are the responsibilities of a man on guard duty? I don't know them all, Dad. I forgot some of them. Yeah. Your mother always selects up on you when I go overseas. Give me the ones you know. To walk my post in a military manner, keep always alert and observing everything that takes place within sight or hearing, to spread the alarm in case of fire or disorder. You skipped about 100 of them. You ought to know those if you're going to be on duty. I'll give you a week to relearn them once we get to Ravenel. I haven't looked at them for a long time, Dad. Never make excuses. Yes, sir. For the next 10 miles, the car was silent. Colonel Meacham chewed gum belligerently, and Ben watched the white lines until he was mesmerized by their repetitiveness. Both of them wanted to speak, but could find no common ground to bridge the abyss that separated them as father and son. The Red Sox won, both said finally. How'd Williams do? Ben asked. Knocked 3 runs in with a double. Good. I flew with Ted Williams in Korea. You knew that, didn't you? Yes, sir. Dad, Ben said, beginning a conversation he had fantasized when his father was flying from the carrier off the French coast. Are you ever afraid when you fly? That's a good question. Yeah, I'm always a little afraid when I fly. That's what makes me so damn good. I've seen pilots who weren't afraid of anything, who would forget about checking their instruments, who flew by instinct as though they were immortal. I have pissed on the graves of those poor bastards, too. The pilot who isn't a little bit afraid always screws up, and when you screw up bad in a jet, you get a corporal playing taps at the expense of the government. What are you most afraid of when you fly? Most afraid of? Bull whispered, plucking at his left earlobe. Good question, sports fans. When I'm flying a jet, the thing I'm most afraid of is birds. Birds, Ben said, letting a quick girlish giggle escape in his surprise. Yeah, birds, his father answered defensively. You hit a bird going 500 knots, and it's like being hit with a bowling ball. You remember when Rip Tuscombe was killed in a plane crash about 5 years ago? Yes, sir. Well, he had his head taken off when he hit a buzzard. Birds, huh, Popsy? Ben intoned. I can see the headlines now. Bull Meacham killed by a parakeet. War hero brought down by a deadly sapsucker. Go ahead and laugh, Jocko, but I break out into a cold sweat when I spot a flock of birds up yonder. The bad thing is that they're usually past you by the time you see them. I mean, they are behind you before your brain registered that you've just passed a bird. You'll know what I mean someday. How, Dad? When you're a Marine pilot flying your own plane. Ben knew he was in familiar terrain now, old territory where the teasing had grooves and furrows of ground that had been plowed before. I think I'm going to be an Air Force pilot, Dad. If you want to fly with pussies, it's okay with me, Bull flared. Ben remembered that his son had teased him about the Air Force many times before. But if you want to fly with the best, you fly with the Corps. Simple as that. What if I really decide not to go into the Marine Corps, Dad? I want you to go in for a 4-year hitch at least. If you decide not to make a career out of it, it's your decision. But I want to pin the wings of gold on you after flight training. You'll be a good pilot, son. You're athletic and have the quick reflexes, the coordination. The only problem I see is you have a little too much of your mother in you. But Quantico will ream that out of your system. I'll have plenty of time to decide whether to go into the Corps or not when I'm in college, Dad. That's negative, his father replied. I've already made that decision. You'll decide whether to stay in after 4 years. That's not fair, Dad. Who said your old dad's ever been fair? Look, Ben, you'll thank me one day. Christ, the way the world's going right now, you may even luck out and get your wings when there's a war going on. That's lucking out, Ben exclaimed. Shh, not so loud. If you're trained as a fighter pilot, you'll never be happy until you test your skills against an enemy pilot. That, boy, is a law. What if I get killed? Then you're a lousy pilot. Only lousy pilots get killed in combat. That's another law. Ben thought for a moment, then said, What about Uncle Dan? Your brother, the one killed in the Solomons, was he a lousy pilot? The massive shoulders tensed beside him. Then slowly they relaxed, but the car lurched forward, moving faster and faster until Bull answered by saying, yes, Dan was a lousy pilot, but he was a brave one, and he earned that KIA in his tombstone. He earned it. Would you like to be killed in action, Dad? If he has to, every pilot would like to be killed in action. It's better than dying of the piles. But only lousy pilots are KIA, Dad. It's a law. That's right, sports fans. Good thinking. That's why I'm telling you that I'm more afraid of birds than enemy pilots. It would have to be a great pilot who shot you down, wouldn't it, Dad? Bull turned toward his son and winked. Inhuman, Ben. The bastard would have to be inhuman. Now go on and get some sleep. I'm wide awake now. I'll get Marianne or your mama up if I need some company. Good night, Dad. Good night, sports fans. Alone now, the car voiceless, Bull strained to follow the white lines of the highway, snaking through Georgia. Butterflies by the thousands fluttered maniacally before the headlights, then exploded like tiny half-angels on the windshield, leaving a scant yellow paint and the dust of broken wings as a final signature. The further into the journey Bull went, the harder it became for him to see through the windshield that was stained with the prints of so many inconsequential deaths. Periodically, Bull would spot a turtle crossing the highway, and with an imperceptible movement of his arm, he would position the car expertly and snap the animal's shell, which made a scant pop like the breaking of an egg. It kept him from getting bored on the trip. It kept him alert. He always did it when his wife and children were asleep, but when he pulled clear into the other lane to kill a turtle almost on the shoulder of the other side, Lillian awoke. She whispered at him, her eyes still closed, but her lips tightened in a thin line. It takes a mighty brave man to run over turtles. Who's running over turtles? Bull asked innocently. I've been on enough trips to know when you're getting your jollies running over turtles. I think it's sick. Well, they shouldn't be on the road. They're a safety hazard. Sure they are, darling. You're always reading about car wrecks caused by marauding box turtles attacking defenseless Chevrolets. It's my only sport when I'm traveling, my one hobby. And you're such an all-American at it, darling. Maybe I should dress you in a cheerleader's costume and shake a pom-pom every time you run over one of those dangerous turtles. Ah, St. Lillian, you think I should drive real slow so I won't kill any butterflies? I don't care what you do. Thanks, St. Lillian. I'll be a good boy as soon as I pick off this next turtle. Ooh-wee, he's a big mother. Then Bull laughed as the wheel made a short pop. Yep, we're in Georgia sure enough, sports fans. Starting to see a lot of dead dogs on the highway. That ought to be the nickname of this horseshit state. The dead dog state. Now I'm going to quit yapping and start making some time. Making time. The phrase came back to Ben as he entered into an unsteady threshold of sleep. A sleep that wasn't quite the groaning of a truck that passed them by in a vision of light, passed them in a momentary assault as the car ate its way through Georgia, consuming miles as Bull Meacham carried on imaginary conversations with phantoms only he could see. Ben saw his father stabbing the air with his fingers, saw his lips move and his face grimace as someone responded to his interrogation improperly. Making time. Yes, as this inch of highway is past now, or then, as the sea draws nearer, smelling the sea while sleep comes during the dying hours, the corpses of miles past, the pale memories of towns seen dimly, the pilot is moving toward a home they have never seen.